Check, and then we'll start.
All right, what's good, y'all?
Oh, there.
Jake, how's it going, man?
Can't complain, just wrapping up the week.
Indeed, indeed.
It do be like that. All right, are we all ready to start then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. First question is from Godot. They want to know about USS Constitution. Did she have sprites or design as a bell that could have or would have been shown in the game? And if so, could you tell us anything about that, specifically their height?
For bells that have a question mark, right? So like Orzel was one, Connie, others that you guys can probably imagine right now. Bells that have a question mark, the moment you unlock them is the same moment the design process starts. So we don't start that beforehand. I mean, we kick around ideas for sure, but like we're not gonna actually go to the artist or really engage in writing until she's been unlocked in the game. So no, we got some basic ideas, and Jank, I don't know if you have an idea of her height, but
I do actually, yes. I picked Martha Washington's height as Constitution's, which is about 5 foot.
Outstanding.
Oh, there you go. We have an official height now for if that ever becomes pertinent. I'm sure it will never become pertinent.
I mean, there's no way, right?
Obviously, no way. Their second question was, are there any plans to make nodes on the map with an upper limit of deployable tonnage? Something that would give destroyers and submarines a useful niche.
I mean, I think we're always up for doing something interesting with the campaigns, right? With the advent of auto battle, more or less you're seeing them when you want to go crack them open and try them out for the first time. So, yeah, I think that's a neat idea. We don't want to lock anybody out, right? Let's say people haven't been focusing on their small girls or their underwater boats. We don't want to lock anybody out, but I could see that for sure as like like an event style map that maybe is optional, but it has some cool stuff on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I know a lot of people regularly lament the use of destroyers and other such light ships.
Well, that's one of the funny things, right, about making a simulation where nobody actually dies.
Yeah,
right.
true.
Right. So, in the real world, why do you have 2 million destroyers? Because they're kind of expendable, right? So yeah, it's an interesting sort of problem when it comes to doing a World War II simulation. Just destroyers have a purpose, and it's not exactly what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the next question, it is from Kiyoshi. Much like how we had the 1939 picture with all of the bells in 1939, or well, most of them, some of them haven't made it yet. Would the developers have a similar picture for 1940 that they will put out that we could guess certain bells on?
Well, I mean, that would imply that we've already done all the bells for 1940, but as you guys have seen, what you guys do in the metagame, and then of course what you're voting in the war room, has a pretty big impact on who's going to get added to the game. So of course we have a main line, right, of bells, but couldn't do anything near the full roster because we simply don't know who it's going to be. Didn't count on it being Gorizia, for instance, and Renown, and so on and so forth. But once 1940 is done, we could publish such a picture. You wouldn't need to guess at that point, but sure.
Sure, just in case anyone wants that picture at the end. All right. Next set of questions is from Apothes. First one being, do traits with fleet activation in them have to be on the flagship to work?
Yeah, that's right. They need to be on the flag in order to apply to the fleet.
Okay, and then continuing this question, does, let's say, the correction buff from Battle Coordinator also affect AA guns and light battery mounts with their default hidden range keeper?
Yes, that is correct. So fleet-wide bonuses will affect all guns I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Okay.
And yeah, the default the AA director has all the normal stats, so it's fully affectable.
No. So if buffs that affect ship-wide do affect it. Okay. The next question is from Free Jones. Do writers receive any notes or editing while writing Bell stories?
Yeah, extensively, because there are rules to the Bellverse, right? They have to be in keeping with the lore of how Bells work, of how Morganas work, to the extent that anybody knows that. There is a harmonization process that takes place in working out this canon.
Hmm. Oh, and that reminds me, Bank, did you want to definitely confirm now that Bell stories are 100% canon?
Oh, yeah. I don't understand what the dispute was in the first place. Having said that, there are select stories that I think that I can think of where we have allowed the rules to bend or shift slightly. I'm not going to give specifics, but these things are malleable.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it probably comes from Jank, if I understood the Discord correctly. I think where that's coming from is some of them are sillier than others, right? Like I don't know. I mean, I guess that's okay, right? Like some bells are silly, can be silly.
Yeah, nature of the beast. Diverse stable of riders.
Yeah, I think you need some humor, right, in an otherwise grim war. But we're all playing the same game. I saw some people are like, hey, only the war is canon to me, like the war results. I mean, it's a fine way to play. Pick and choose what you want.
All right. Next question is, why can nations with multiple fleets not send those fleets to accomplish different things for weekly missions? I believe this is probably pertaining to the IGN.
IJN, yeah.
That's what
possibly. I mean, a lot of people are in that same boat. If you look at Italy, right, they have a battle fleet, which they did historically, and then they have a whole bunch of like smaller divisions which are scattered, all around Italy and then into the colonial possessions. Same way, with Japan, they have some task forces, small fleets that are protecting local areas with kind of older ships or smaller ships, but they have effectively two fleets, one for engaging the the American battle line, and the other one for finding it. Right? Yeah. That's sort of what it was for. If we were playing a game like Hearts of Iron, right? I mean, what is the first thing that we do when we're playing a maritime nation? We're going to go reorganize our fleets, right? I don't know. Well, I don't know about you guys, but that's what I do, right? I don't like that fleet, in its composition. I need it to do something else, so I'm going to change it. Obviously, we don't have that level of granularity. It'd be a little bit difficult, to do that in a war room setting, in a mobile phone setting. So we're really using the 39 fleets, and we're using them sort of as their admirals really sort of originally intended. And sometimes that doesn't make the most amount of sense, and we'll try to course correct as we go along. But I mean, that's essentially why.
Okay. Their next question is, can Texas make a good barbecue?
It's not even a question, of course.
Easiest question we've ever had answered. Let's see, the next set of questions are from Alex. Their first one being, will we have the chance to buy, trade, or make treaties to acquire technologies, weapons, equipment, naval aircraft from other nations? Also, if said nation is notorious for building ships, would we be able to buy them? An example being the US building nearly 8 escort carriers for Lend-Lease and Italy building destroyers for most countries.
So I think the answer to that question is a definite yes. I mean, first of all, you've got the sale of Deutschland, Lutzow, coming up, right, historically, and how you guys are going to play that. Well, I mean, Deutschland isn't going to be for sale, but I bet another ship would be. And so that's that's on the table. You've got the French with a proposal of their own. I don't think that we're at all opposed to that if it sort of made sense,
Hmm.
in the historical context. Sure.
All right. So no Germans selling the British anything currently.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, that's plus also, for the gear, you can just get it off German bells, right? So you don't really have that problem, so to speak.
All right. Their second question is: Will we potentially see Bells disheartened or even disgusted by war crimes or atrocities committed by their home nation?
I mean, we've already seen some Bells that are rather disenchanted with the actions of their particular country. Certainly not to the degree of leaving that nation. I mean, there are mechanical barriers to that, and there are also just lore and political barriers to that in game. But yeah, certainly, it's no secret that. Just because a bell is of a particular country doesn't mean they are, they are entirely jiving with that country's particular ruling class's politics.
Much like regular people, they agree with some things and disagree with others.
You've put it much more articulately than I did. Yes.
And just to add to that for the last question about, would they leave their own nation? So part of the central conceit of the bell, is that she is in many ways the embodiment of the namesake, the embodiment of the ship proper. And you don't see too many turncoats, right? Given names or given ship names, right? So there's an aspect to them which is going to fundamentally always be loyal. But if, for instance, there were two competing governments, both claiming legitimacy over a particular nation, then you could certainly see Bells asserting allegiance to one or the other.
Okay. Moving on to the next question from Wellington: Where there will be possibility of the Franco-British Union?
That sounds like fantasy.
Yeah, that was a real proposal that Churchill came up with. But like many proposals, I think that would require something fairly extraordinary from the French government of the time, maybe even the British government of the time, to really entertain that. And that was about keeping them in the fight. That was about sort of making them unconquerable, so to speak. I mean, we're 5 months away before we ever have to find out whether or not any of that is going to happen. So I guess we'll address it if and when the sort of the Germans get behind the lines. But I wouldn't consider that to be any more likely than it was in the real world.
Okay. Let's see. Moving on to Air Castle's questions. As we get further into the game's timeline, will more modern ships be on maps with higher HQ level requirements, or will they be around the same levels as other ships of their class?
I would think it would remain. It would remain essentially HQ level and what's the word that I'm looking for? Ship class, I think, are related, but modernity not so much. Is that the feeling that you get, Diff?
Yeah, well, I mean, you did the table, so I'm going to defer to you on that one. But that makes sense to me.
Okay. Next question from Air Castle is: Will event ships eventually be added into the normal pool of ships, or will they be found in the event they were originally a part of if it reruns?
Oh, I think event ships are going to stay sort of event. I don't know that their event would specifically return, but I suspect that there are going to be event-like ways to get them again. But I wouldn't expect to see them in the normal campaigns. You will see like the war room bells, right? That determined by nation ranking. You will see those go into the normal pool, but I wouldn't think you'll see event bells go in there.
Okay. Let's see, the next question is from Daniel. Can other nations' actions affect waves of Morganas, since we've got it confirmed that the Morganas seem to be coming in waves, with newer models being in later waves? For example, certain nations elect to not hit Morgana devices, so it speeds up the arrival, or certain nations' actions that cause national moods leading to new Morganas forming for the next wave.
But yeah, it's absolutely determined by the war.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't be doing diplomacy with us otherwise.
Yeah, and you can trust those guys, so you should totally do that.
I see. Next set of questions is from Robinsaw. First one being, what is the meaning behind the war plans that have the 3 question mark risk?
Oh yeah, it is unquantifiable at the time you make the decision.
Okay. And we've already answered the second question, I believe, about using multiple fleets at a time.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the second fleet in particular. I mean, since they're asking, the second fleet is your scouting fleet. That's the one that was detailed. In one of the early choices, I think Japan, like Britain, made the decision to try to keep their battle fleet close to the home islands. So that's what it's doing. It's there protecting the home islands. When things get in range, like this thing with fire, or Sakhalin, once the captain's done, however that turns out, then the battle fleet might well be detailed to go after that. But otherwise, it's gonna hang out near to Japan, protecting it.
Okay. Next question is from Zebarati. What would it take, or is there a way to spend Google Play Store points on VB? They've got a ton of points, and they're interested in spending them.
You know what, Sarati? I'm afraid I gotta be embarrassed here. I don't actually know what Google Play Store points are, so I don't know. I'll have to ask our marketing gang. What is that? So yeah, I couldn't comment on whether that's difficult or easy or anything in between.
All right. Next one is from someone who wished to remain anonymous. They've been thinking about buying prestige points for their husband for Father's Day this year. Does the game store have a mechanic in place yet for purchasing gifts?
Well, first of all, that's a wonderful day, wonderful idea, and have a happy Father's Day. No, we don't have any method to do that. One of the problems with the stores like Apple and Google is that they very much resist like using codes, right, and that kind of thing. They want all purchases to be direct through the store. So to do something like that, I mean, I think it would have to be fully manual. So no, unfortunately, we just don't have a good mechanic in there. It's a cool idea, but yeah, no, unfortunately not.
Okay. See, next question's from Tall Giraffe. Due to the esoteric nature of the leaderboard, it seems like certain factions will always be number one. Same thing with certain players in the respective factions and faction leaderboards. They were wondering if any plans were made so they were not so one-sided.
Oh, it's an interesting question, right? Like one of the joys and one of the problems with the leaderboard is that it really is reflective of a player or a nation player set, right? To be active, to be engaged in the war and grinding and getting points and so on and so forth. So on the one hand, I mean, they earned it, right? I mean, they spent that time and they sunk that effort in there, and it is right for them to be at the top of the leaderboard. And I mean, Italy is, I don't know how long. What is it? 4 months now? I don't even know how long it's been, but Italy's player base has been remarkably consistent and intense, right? About playing pretty hard and staying at the top. So I feel reluctant, right, to sort of tip the scales on that. But I do think that the early criticisms were right. There was too much bound up in the leaderboard, right? Such that Italy was always getting the what have you, and so on and so forth. So I think it was a good idea. It was a good move to pull that out there. But yeah, I think right now the leaderboard by and large is sort of doing what it's supposed to do, which is reflecting who's putting in that effort. And yeah, it just seems like a good thing.
All right. And I know a lot of people have put forward many suggestions on how to improve the top 5 rewards, top 20 rewards, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think we love that kind of suggestion. As you guys have seen, that we're pretty open to ideas that seem cool and really um, resonate with sort of the kind of game that we're trying to make. So yeah, we have seen those ideas. We certainly have talked about a number of them. Some of them got implemented. Like I hope you guys have found the ranking rewards to be improved. I hope you guys have found daily missions to be better, so on and so forth. Yeah, we chip away at it. Let me say that.
Okay. Well, the next set of questions are from Dr. Pepper. Their first one being, how does the team feel about the popularity and commercial success of the game? Did it exceed your expectations or fall short?
I mean, I think the obvious answer to that is we should be more popular and we should have more commercial success. Always. Damn it. So, of course, I don't think we could answer it any other way. Like more and more and more. I mean, we really want to, we would really love it if we had an impossible to read Discord board. Actually, I guess that would be kind of bad. But the more people who are learning and getting engaged and have cool ideas and they're playing the game. I mean, of course we want more of that. Did it exceed our expectations? I mean, some expectations have been exceeded and some have fallen short. I think that's sort of normal, right, in any release. Like, there are some areas of the game that were super popular that kind of surprised us, and there were some areas that we expected to be like, oh my god, everybody's going to be into it, and not that popular. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Their next question is there a roadmap or timetable of major additions or changes you plan on making to the game?
Yes, there absolutely is. But your real question is, will we share that with you? The answer is no. We have learned that's probably not the best idea.
Okay. Not going to be shared anytime soon, if ever. Good to know.
Well, I think if we get to a point where we're no longer tweaking some of the foundational elements of the game, like, kind of learning about how you guys are actually playing it. When we get past that and we're just focused on new enhancements and features, then yeah, it's probably a decent idea to kind of share some of our plans. We love to talk about that kind of stuff. But when we talk about timetable, nah, we're not gonna do that yet. Anyway.
Okay. Their next question is the fraction of active players and people in Discord more or less than what you thought it would be?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I don't think we thought about it in that way. Of course, we knew that the fraction of people in Discord was always going to be much smaller than your silent majorities. And by and large, that's true. But maybe we didn't expect it to be as active as it is, which is really awesome. Like right away, it sort of changed our minds about, hey, instead of doing sort of like the war report and the feedback monthly, right? Definitely seems like people are interested in getting a little bit deeper, right? So we started doing it weekly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, if we keep adding more people, I might start to request getting paid to do this.
Well, do you accept prestige?
Maybe. We'll talk about that later. Let's see. Their fourth question was, they remembered hearing the game's mechanics are based on an old war game. Do you know what that war game is?
Yeah, that's the Navy rules for their what do you call it? The fleet exercises. You could, I think you can find it online. We got ours out of the library out in Maryland, but yeah, you could. I mean, there were many sets. The one that we use is 1939, of course.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. Their next question is specifically about the Morgana depth charge that some of us received.
Yeah.
Let's see. It is recorded as being a 1937 design, but they haven't really seen anything from that year it might be based on. They would also argue it doesn't follow the naming convention of Morgana attack on account of not having quotation marks in its names. What's up with it?
That is a Morgana depth charge. The nation that names it determines how it's going to be named. So sometimes you're going to see the quotes. Sometimes perhaps he wouldn't. It just follows a naming scheme by the nation. Yeah, I don't think we can really comment too much more than that, other than we heard you guys loud and clear. You want more depth charges. We got it. Expect them coming to you soon.
Of course, all the depth charges. It's exactly what everyone wants. Let's see, next question is, it's been 2 months already. Can you please tell us who gifted the Excalibur?
I can't, no. Sorry.
Obviously, it was King Arthur.
Yes, of course.
Say, False Hope mentioned that the enemy will attempt to approximate our technology. Where do these Morgana replicas visibly fail to mimic the originals? It has been mentioned Morgana tech bears no signs of soldering or tool work. Is that all? Soldering?
I don't think I can talk
soldering.
about this mechanically. Dank, did you have anything that you wanted to add on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's they don't really do smithing or manufacturing in the same way that we do. Of course, they enslave people for that purpose. So there is that. I think more pertinently is the fact that it's obvious, right, that it's a Morgana facsimile versus when it's not. In ways that I think we can expect to become a little clearer or be touched on in the very near future. That being said, they're constantly learning. There is, I believe, in Lexington's story, there's reference to a Bell stamp on official INPF communiques that Morganas somehow can't mimic. But again, never say never.
They can't mimic yet. Similar to the last question, the next one is, has Morgana construction, manufacture, or repair ever been observed? And if so, how does it differ from human techniques?
You don't want to know.
It's fair enough.
I don't think it has. I don't think it has. Jank, are you aware of any time that they might have observed this?
I mean, there's definitely references in the story to repairing, right? And in the flavor text of the missions to trying to get facilities going. Of course, you have Vanity's amazing palace in the Mediterranean that everyone ought to visit, in the Tyrrhenian, sorry. But it's not well understood.
Got it. Next question is, what frequencies of electromagnetic radiation do the jump events emit? The jump being the various teleportations.
I mean, if we told you, Dr. Pepper, then you would be able to replicate the technique and patent that technology, and we just can't have that.
There you go. Next one, material used in Morgana construction has been described as corrupted. What measurable difference is there between metals used by them and what humans produce? If there is one.
Jank, any thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, if you touch it, it might give you nightmares. That's one observable behavior. There's not really a pattern other than if you come into contact with it, you might get some sort of malevolent kind of interaction.
Bad stuff. Got it. Next question is, the war report from last week has implied that Verdun has been attached to the Forster raid. What other ships have been attached to the fleet?
No, I don't think she was attached to the fleet. I think she just was commenting in general on resting. The Forster raid is as much as it was with one obvious subtraction. No, I don't think the Iron is with them. She's too slow. As to assignments and forces, I mean, of course, in the real world, there must be plenty of shifts, right? I mean, just convoy events alone, right? There must have been plenty of shifts. We can't work to that level of detail for obvious reasons. So you can more or less think of the assignments and locations of the ships as, generally speaking, where they were in 1939, unless you guys make clear decisions or it's communicated clearly. hey, this division is rebasing here, or the Japanese carriers have been detached and they're now down here, or what have you. So we have to play a little loose with that, just given the fact that there'd be way too many movements, right?
Yeah. Right. And their final question is, how relaxing is a cruise through the yawning void in the South Pacific?
Jank, this one's all you.
I mean, I invite you to go to the South Pacific and report results. Nobody's been able to thus far, but when somebody comes back, they'll have quite the story to tell.
That's where you get the next Bell teaser. I see. Okay. In the South Pacific. Got it. The final two sets of questions before we move on to ones already asked in the chat today are from Cervantes. The first one is, will the campaign / non-event maps reset at the end of the in-game year?
Some of them might change, like the wording, but we try to keep the non-event ones as much as possible sort of coherent and consistent, so that especially new players can find their way and level up and so on and so forth.
Okay. And their second question is, it's been established that bells have a limited radius of travel from their own holes, but can they travel to other bell holes? Some stories seem to indicate this.
So there's still there's an effective range inherent, of course. I mean, for bells on their own, right, 10 meters, right? If bells are clustered, if they're, to allow for various bell bash sort of things, there's a little bit more of a friendly kind of gestalt field where they can move about a little bit more freely, as I understand it. But yeah, in general, there are lore reasons that allow for that sort of thing.
And Queen Mary is, of course, a notable exception, who can basically host bells more or less anywhere on her ship. That's a sort of a unique facet that she has. And then, as we've seen quite recently, the Finnish bell, she was able to get pretty far away from her own hull.
True. I'm sure nothing horrible is going to happen with that storyline at all.
Well, I mean, they did roll a 19 or a 16, actually, I think is what it was for that one.
Obviously, the 19 would have been even more disturbing. All right. Moving on to questions that have been asked in the chat now. First one's from Godot. Are some of the German bells nightmares related to one another? They're mostly thinking of Graf Spee and Schleswig-Holstein.
I mean, I think that's for you guys to kind of consider and think about.
All right.
In other words, there's no way we could comment on that.
Won't or can't?
Okay, won't.
Fine. Let's see. Will the bells acknowledge death dates? It's the next one I see.
I mean, as such, like using those specific terminology. I mean, there are, I believe there are recorded instances of bells, particularly Rawalpindi, having certain like nightmares and visions earlier in the war, right? Around the time that those things are supposed to have happened. Why that is, who can say?
But if you're talking mechanics, like I assume the specific question is actually around the Death Day mechanics. Yeah, it's on the list. And I think it's probably one that's going to come sooner rather than later. We're not going to go backwards in time and give Rawa her Death Day.
Yeah,
those of you that love her will thank me later. But yeah, well, it'll be in the game eventually. It's just an interesting concept, and we like it.
Okay. Now let's see. Cat wants new or returning training ships, since people who join now can't really get any. Besides
I think it was her who asked that before. Yeah, it's a smart idea. I don't know when they would return, but I think in general we agree, right? Either that or to get some of the other national training ships in.
Okay. Let's see. Next question is: will nations like the Netherlands be unlocked once they enter the war, i.e., the 10th of May, 1940?
Not the Netherlands, but they won't be unlocked until a year. Well, I guess actually that would be sooner than that. They'll be unlocked a year after launch, just to kind of keep that special for the handful of Netherlands players that we have. I think you'll see other nations become unlocked as we go along. Again, that's more it's more of a vanity thing because they're going to map to the major powers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we know you guys want them, and we want them too.
Okay. So next one is: will the Morganas affect ship designs? An example: when we eventually get World War II designed ships like the Iowas, where they have been modified from the historical designs to take into account the Morgana threat.
It's an interesting idea. There is obviously a certain amount of technological progress that will take place during the war to enable, human forces rather than the Bells, right, to combat the Morganas in a more effective way. So I do think that will be a part of the story. There's a kind of an allure to like having, real ships appear with sort of their real loadout. And then you could change them any way you want to. So I think right now our general consensus is, people kind of like that. I mean, well, I don't know. I like it. So I don't know if we'd make modifications to their original sort of, commission load, but you never know.
Yeah.
There does exist which never made it into the final game, but there does exist an excerpt from a New York Times article about the Battle of Belle Harbor that specifically mentions that work on the Iowas is continuing as scheduled. So, keep that in mind.
Possibilities, as always. Next question is: are the Kickstarter Bells coming in a 2-month stint since there's 8 of them?
I think that the way that they were going to do it is that they were going to fold them in at that period. So they're all going to just show up. I understand why you're asking that question, though. That would be, kind of a chore to grind. I'll take that back.
Okay. Next question then. Is there a lore reason as to why male bells don't exist? I assume it's mostly just cute girls as the meta reasoning.
No. Well, I mean, sure, yes, obviously, of course. Everyone's here for the cute girls, for sure. But no, it's because we're American, and Americans think of ships as girls. Sorry.
Fair enough.
It was a big shock to us when we found that that's not true for certain other nations, but sorry.
Well, yeah, and following on from that, different countries have different perceptions of these. They often intersect, but it's identity is a funny and diverse thing, and as with humans, so with ship girls. So I wouldn't rule anything out entirely.
I eat Bismarck and all of that.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that we would do that with Bismarck, but you never know.
Fair enough. I mean, if the people demand it.
Indeed, if the German war room demanded it, I'm sure we'd think. Well, her art is already done, so sorry on that one. But if there was another ship, I'm sure we would.
What about Bismarck 2?
Yeah,
Bismarck, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, Bismarck, I like it.
All right. Let's see. Will there be any more promotional material in the future, collabs, ads, etc.?
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah. We're constantly doing some stuff like in that arena.
Okay. Let's see. Scrolling down, slowly catching up. Okay, here's one. As we are seeing bells waking up under construction, where we see more bells that are abandoned or just shipwrecked start waking up, Example, the group of Clemson stuck off the rocks of California, the bow of an Austro-Hungarian battleship in Italy, etc., etc.
There are so many exciting possibilities that I just can't discuss.
Okay. Oh, what about this one then? When are we getting summer skins? Are we getting summer skins?
Uh, we would love to do costumes with exactly that theme. And summer is around the corner. It's a little difficult to imagine any belle in June of 1940 deciding to hang out on a beach. Maybe the Japanese, but everybody else probably has some better things to do at that time.
Fair enough. All right, next question. If the game runs on long enough, will we end up getting DDGs and COGs?
Sure. I mean, I think you guys have already seen sort of like the way that we're doing this. Yes, we've got a mainline right of bells that we've got in store that we think have important stories or good viewpoints. But the rest of it is kind of up to you guys. I mean, Wigbert, you you want the moss boat, you got the moss boat. You'll never use it, but if you need it,
I mean, you say we won't use it. I don't believe you.
you would use it one time, and then that would be it.
Probably, yes. All right, but beyond my obsession with the moss boat, next question is: have we in universe been able to purify Morgana salvage for safe recycling? Is melting it down and recasting it sufficient?
Oh no, because of course nobody would ever handle or use Morgana salvage. That's against league rules. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Of course, no one's ever doing it. Got it.
Yeah, it's illegal.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
come on.
people wouldn't break
That would be
the law.
unreasonable.
Okay, moving on to Horseman's questions. In the case of enormous bug fixes that would lead to a complete meta shift, like how plus it % seems to be bug on guns and multiple people put tried and true on, etc., is there any consideration to just biting the bullet and making R&D instant for a day to make up for the huge amount of potentially lost time?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that I don't know on the forum or something. But yeah, that's a great suggestion. That's exactly what we would do. I can't say that it'd be free. Like I don't know if that's true or not. Like we have to build such a system to do that. But what the basic ask is reasonable, right? Hey, we need a quick way to redo, sort of how our bells are operating, and that's a reasonable suggestion.
Yeah, as the meta shifts, you don't want your effort to have gone entirely to waste, right? Magic Arena, right? When stuff gets banned, you get wild cards to compensate, So it's not unreasonable at all.
Okay. And their second question is: would there ever be an opportunity to point efforts towards doing a significant rebuild to currently existing bells, not through the in-game crafting system, but in universe? Like, for example, rebuilding Bjorn's machinery with modern French boilers to not be quite so uselessly slow.
I don't think that we're going to have that be a function of the war. Not because that's not a reasonable thing, but because we really want like sort of engine redesign and those choices to be made by the player. So I guess the short answer is no. The longer term answer is you'll still be able to replace all that so that they're not so slow. I mean, assuming you want to spend your weight that way.
It would just be something that comes up in a later system.
Yeah. I mean, as everybody on this call, I'm sure realizes, there are a lot of gaps, right, when it comes to defining engines of the time. The boiler is no problem, right? But the engines, it's another story.
Let's see, Wellington wants to know why you torture him so much.
It's just love, I'm sure.
Of course, 100%.
Well, you hit a pinata, candy comes out, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's the official dev response to Wellington's suffering. Everyone note that down. Calc wants to know, would bells be affected if they end up getting captured by a different nation? For example, if Germans chose the option to capture Orzel a few weeks back and she ends up serving in the Kriegsmarine, will she get renamed and her personality changed to reflect that?
Well, she certainly would look different, and her story would end up being different as well. Um, let's see. During the war, the Germans, by and large, did rename all their captured vessels, as far as I'm aware. So yes, probably she would be. I don't know. She'd be named 001 or something. So.
Or you just do a straight translation, and she's Adler or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe they would just call her Adler. Who knows?
Okay.
But yeah, in essence, yes, there would be a change. She would have a new namesake, and she would adopt some of those characteristics while still carrying on the characteristics of what you had previously.
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way, right? We went with the historical option according to player actions. So speculation is the realm of fan fiction now, and I look forward to it.
There you go. Next set of questions are from Nell. First one being, can a Belle awaken underwater and force herself to resurface and then drag herself to shore for repairs, asking for a friendly nation?
Yeah, I think that would be possible, yes.
Okay. Regarding the crew and mascot submissions, there are a lot of creative designs in both. Will some of these be added even if they didn't win?
Well, we have a mainline selected. So for the bells that are being contributed by
crew and mascot, the
Oh,
competition.
sorry.
Yeah.
One of our goals is that we want to make the map even more reactive that it is presently. So currently, the event campaigns are sort of like tied to various conditions, and they have different drops and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We would like to have that more tracked closely, sort of what's going on with the war progress. Now, the trouble is, can't forecast what you guys are going to do, right? You guys are always constantly surprising us. That's for dang sure. But the most recent example is Bougainville's cat, right? Obviously, that should be a mascot at some point.
The question, though, did specifically ask about the ongoing competition, but I do think that's more of a Yami question, so I will ask them that later.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm paying attention to Calvante's memes, and he.
I'm not caught up with what's currently going on at the bottom of chat. Nell's next question is regarding the teddy bears from slots. Will we be able to get more, and can they be considered other crew slots? Since the first four
the teddy bears.
Yeah.
I don't know if you really want those teddy bears aboard ship. I mean, they are fun, but
I mean, some people run an entire crew of them.
Yeah, they just seem bad. But yeah, I mean, that's a fun concept.
I mean, would you want an entire crew of minions?
Some people would. Clearly.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if I'd want that on a warship, but probably. But yeah, I mean, it's not within the realm of impossibility by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. And are there any hard limits on what can be brought back in supply runs from nodes? Additionally, will there be plans to revamp salvage runs to improve vesture/gear numbers obtained?
So there's how cruises are used, and then there's maybe sort of like how they're envisioned to be used, right?
Mm.
So it's a nice way to get resources and stuff while you're asleep or you're at work. But definitely folks have been asking for more fleet slots so they can run them independently, right, while also using their fleets to battle. I don't know that we've really taken a look or given a lot of thought towards changing the rewards on those, which are sort of decent for what they're envisioned to be. But we're definitely, I can almost say 99% likely that we're going to add at least enough fleet slots so that you can run a full complement of cruises and also a full battle, 4 fleets in battle.
Okay. Let's see. Next question is, since USS Stewart isn't likely to be scuttled and written off with the IGN taking a massive chill pill, IJN, I keep saying G, but I mean J, what name will DE-238 end up getting? If any.
I guess we'd have to go and see who was the next destroyer built. And then she'd have that name. But your real question is, what about at the end of that whole chain? What would you get? Well, if it's Navy captains, we just have to look at the list and pick one, basically.
Okay, next one from Dr. Pepper. So is asphyxiation 20 feet or 200? They've seen both answers.
That's a jank question.
Asphyxiation. Oh, I mean, I don't know where the 20 foot came from. Like, she has to be. I mean, we've read Achilles' interview from back in the day, right? She has to be big enough to grapple a Leander class, right? So yeah, the 200 foot is closer to the truth, but again, she's not necessarily locked to that specific height. I don't think we've seen the limit, if there is one.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Just like the bells can kind of change form, change size, can phase through things. Their Morgana opponents can do something similar.
Neat. Next question is, will there ever be a browser or desktop version of the game?
I mean, there is. That's how we build and test it. But much depends on.
Will there be one playable for the rest of us?
Is there a partner, right, that we would work with? So originally, back in the day, we were thinking about Nutaku. Nutaku has a non-adult section as well, which I think very few people know about.
Well, because what's the bloody point?
Sorry, what's that?
Well, because what's the point?
So I don't think that one is going to work out for us. We are taking a look at some other options.
Okay. Horse Memes wants to know if there will be an ability to swap nations when new ones unlock.
So in certain instances, the answer is absolutely yes. When you are compelled to or you need to make such a choice. But I suspect that your question is actually, I want to be Dutch, right? I don't know that we have it in mind that you can change your captain's nation via sort of a standard way. I know why you're asking for that question. You're asking that question, but yeah, I don't think we have in mind a way to do that quite yet. It's not that there's not the technology for that, but as you can probably guess, there's a lot to that change, and so we as much as possible want to try to limit that.
Much as we would like to facilitate a late game switch to Brazil whole world speedrun.
Nepal.
I'll take all of the Italians to Ethiopia.
The Para class destroyers are, I mean, they have awakened at this point.
There you go. See, chances on doing a collab with the actual USS Texas.
I mean, I guess when she's out of dry dock, sure. Yeah, I mean, no one can visit her right now except on a special tour. So not much of a collab there. But yeah, I mean, we're not opposed at all. I do think. So we know some of those guys on the ship. I do think that that's not their vibe, but sure, whatever.
Never say never. This one's for you, Diff. Java wants to know, if you remove a turret from a ship, does that remove its barbette as a hit location on the crit table? And if a lone turret is crit, either damaged or destroyed, does it remain on the crit table as something that can be crit again?
The answer to both of those questions is yes. If you remove it, those locations are removed. If it's destroyed, it's still on the table. It just rearranges the debris, right, to recall Bismarck's fate.
Let's see. Next question. If there's a war event pertaining to a nation not currently playable, would those be locked behind a faction?
If there's a war event pertaining to a nation, not... can you give me an example on that one?
That's Sangloon. We'll see if they give an example later.
Okay. I guess the question is...
To the question of the writing for... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh. I was going to say, I presume it's about, like, what are the Dutch doing in Dutch East Indies, and yeah. Yeah, until so as you know, Sangloon, we don't have a separate plan category for the Netherlands, which is too bad because they have a lot of interesting stuff that happens right during the war, especially at the beginning stages of it. But no, all of that is handled either through Allied choices or British-French choices, and more or less we sort of decide based on who was in power at that time, what their response might be, make any roles required.
Okay. Next question is, how often are Morgana seen with crew aboard? How self-aware on average are the crew before their rescue?
Not really.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean we know enough to know what starvation does to her crew. We know enough to know a little bit and speculate perhaps pruriently about what Sin does to her crew. But I mean they're gated by how many crew they can feasibly capture, and once crew are captured, as far as we know, they're a lost cause. Just ask Southampton.
Okay. Let's see. Will ships with more Morgana-like naming conventions be influenced by that or have a more unique relationship towards the Morgana, such as HMS Terror, should they become a Bell?
Well, how could a Morgana become a Bell? I mean,
there you go.
the question is itself suspect.
And also, we have vampire. We have bells that have names that are associated with malevolent or negative forces that aren't necessarily themselves malevolent or negative.
Okay. How does experience and level manifest in reality? Is a level 200 Bell just immortal and incapable of missing mundane targets?
They get taller.
Got it. All a high thing.
Polo accepted.
So this is kind of hinted at, I think, in the stories, but the Bells have extraordinary powers, and while a level 1 Morgana is effectively the equal of 1939 human technology, as they level, they gain increasing abilities to deflect or ward off shots, to mitigate damage, to supernaturally, sort of diminish, their characteristics, so it's more difficult to hit them or see them or perceive them. The same is true of the Bell. So it's not that the ship itself is changing in any way, but rather the magic, right? The underlying magical nature of these entities becomes stronger, and they're able to do more with it.
Okay. Let's see. Next one. Would you ever do a Bells What If event with non-canon Bells that include things that didn't happen in the story? The example being German Orzo.
I mean, that would be a huge amount of fun. I think we've got more than enough, irons in the fire right now just with the War Room Bells. But boy, I love that idea. That'd be amazing.
Okay. In a similar-ish vein, how might a collab Bell be added? Would it be a skin, or would there be a USS Pippa? Don't know what that is, but I presume someone else does.
Yeah, I think I think it would need to be in universe. So there are some things that could plausibly be in universe already, and so having them appear or manifest themselves in some way would be appropriate. Otherwise, I think a costume would be the appropriate thing. Maybe some equipment would be the appropriate thing, which sort of channels the essence of the collab.
Okay. From Java, what shells do guns with AP shells fire against aircraft? AP firing guns seem to have higher flak damage against aircraft, so are they really firing time-fused AP at planes, or is something else going on?
No, it's straight up the AP shell with a time fuse, stuck into it, just like Vespucci fires cannonballs with a time fuse stuck into it. The reason why is because the system accepts one loadout, right? You can have one type of ammunition paired with each gun. So it's simple enough to create an AA variant, right, of any gun. but that's not what you want to do with your 16-inch guns.
I mean, that's what you say. We don't want to.
Okay, all right. Maybe you want to do it actually.
Next one being, I heard some talk about proximity fuses being added as an advantage for guns. Is that actually planned, or was it just speculation?
No, that's how we do the proximity fuse. But I mean, you're years away from that at this point. But when it comes, you will have such an advantage. Yes.
Okay. What else we have here? Getting close. We know we can potentially get incomplete ships, but can we get ones that were delayed to finish after the war early? And if so, how would the date of their addition be decided? Examples being Jean Bart, Chapayev, and Vanguard.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are a lot of those that you really want in the game, right? Because they're cool. When plausibly their construction might have been able to be completed early, or if sufficient, sort of war attention is placed on these bells, then yeah, I think you'd see them appear. I mean, certainly we would like to see them in the game.
Okay, apparently I missed one. Can we get a Morgana Bell Bash?
We're thinking about it.
There you go. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. If the game stays viable financially, will we move past World War II and into Cold War era, or is there a fixed end date?
A lot of folks have kind of asked that question, like, will we get to the Cold War bells, and can we extend past World War II? I think our general response is those are interesting ships too, and absolutely we'd love to see what a post 46, 45, sort of battle at sea would look like, right? That said, there's all kinds of challenges with that era, like the nuclear-tipped warheads, right? And the advent of really long-range engagements, thanks to missile technology. And then there's the fact that the story has an endpoint, right? It has a known sort of ending scenario, and so if we go past that, we'll have to. We'll have to figure out, how that changes, basically.
Okay. Next one is, how do costumes actually work? Are they real clothes, or do bells just magically shift their appearance?
Yeah, the philosophy therewith is it's stuff that the bells would be plausibly wearing in story. Like, like if there's a propaganda poster, right, that necessitates a certain change of clothes, then you could conceivably see that happening.
I think sort of maybe directly attacking the question: do they manifest the clothes or not? They can. Bells, I think, can do that. Maybe some more expertly than others. But I would imagine that by and large, especially if the clothing was a gift or had some sort of special importance, that she would just wear the clothes.
Okay. Let's see. One of the ones I saw. So since there's a fixed end date per se, into the storyline, what happens to the game after that story ends?
It ends.
Everyone's devices explode.
Yeah, your phones burn. Now we have thought that that if there's sufficient interest, that we might go back and begin again and allow you guys to make different choices, right? Which would be kind of interesting, right? But first World War II, the first one.
Okay. Yeah. Here's a question I missed. What did it take to kill a teddy bear? Do they have organs? Did bullets work as intended? Trench guns? A good punt?
Well, I could definitely say that they're not stuffed with regular stuffing, and that by itself was a problem. But no, you put enough holes in them, or you slash them, they eventually lose their ability to really do a lot of damage. So the ones in blue curve, for instance, were either sealed away until the compartment could be handled, or them released into special quarters, or the crew members were enterprising and took to them with hatchets and pipes and held them down and tore them apart and that sort of thing.
There you go. See, in lore, does Vespucci have the potential to run around sporting a battleship's armament? Could the Royal Navy have theoretically said it will withdrawing victory from public view while we install 40-centimeter turrets on her?
Sure. I think she could probably fit one turret, but sure.
I mean, the question is, would she want to?
Yeah, you'd have to ask Victory on that one.
Let's see. Is the Finnish bell okay? Is everything fine there?
I mean, I guess we'll see.
Let's see, Alex, the question was they'd like to go further, but the game story does have a set end date. So probably not 50s and 60s, I don't think. If I remember the answer correctly.
If everyone is still here and the development team is still fully funded, and that's what you guys want, sure, absolutely.
So it's a possibility, but you're going to have to spend a lot more money. So if you're rich, spend some more money.
Over the next 6 years, yes.
Tate, there will be a teaser of something. I can't tell you what yet, later. But it's been about an hour, so we'll answer 5 more questions, and then I'll say who won the competition and give out the teaser.
All right.
So next 5 people, get your questions out. And I'll give you guys 5 minutes to do that before I say that. All right, here's one. Is the game currently financially successful? If you can answer that.
I mean, we're definitely still here, still making the game. So, from that perspective, yes. I mean, do we want to be more financially successful? Yeah, of course. Please help us with that, Roque. Tell everybody you know.
Okay. Next one is, can the USSR evict avarice?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, since I don't know what avarice has to do with the USSR. That could never be a thing.
Of course not. No. Will there be an option to deeper refit for ships? Thinking recruit, but increasing stuff like weight capacity, making her an armored wooden ship, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. Will we get unrotated projectile launchers?
Indeed, you shall.
Fine. Okay. And the final question.
I don't know if you really want them, Lazaro, but yes, you can have them.
All right. Fine. I'm gonna ask these last 3 because I'm a nice person. That's it, though. Let's see. Where was that? Where did it go, though? I already lost it. Does this mean that we'll never be able to convert Morganas into allies?
I mean, surely that's impossible. I don't know what you're referring to.
All right. Questions besides allies, axis, and communists. Can neutral nations make alliances, defense treaties, or joint declarations?
I mean, they kind of, sort of, in some ways already have. The U.S. made the Panama Declaration, and Italy is trying to do something in the Balkans. But I think you're talking about like explicitly sort of a game mechanic alliance, that sort of thing. There's nothing really stopping us from doing that, but I can't say that we have a plan to do it.
Yeah, thus far, the neutral countries and the smaller powers have been kind of essentially NPCs, if you want to use D&D terminology. I know Brazil has been cooperating closer with the INPF than Argentina has. Argentina seems to want to stay a little further afield from that, but never say never.
And the final one, before I do everything else, is what is the difference between normal vanities and the red-haired one? And
Nothing about that is known. It's just that for the observers in the Italian Navy, it was quite clear that visually she was different looking. But beyond that, no other knowledge.
Horse Memes has given a correct answer.
Obviously, yes. All right, and I will now announce the winners once I find the list before I put them. Totally prepared for that one. For the mascot, surprise, surprise, the Constitution mascot won. 27 non-duplicate votes when I counted them.
See, now we
the
really do have to sketch out, Constitution, right?
Yep. And the Masked Bandit was the second place winner. So congratulations on getting your prestige if you're the second place winner. For the crew, the forklift operator won with 26 non-duplicate votes, and Nell was in second place with 19. Those are the winners for that. And then here is, surprise, surprise, the very fun teaser. I have no idea what it is, so have fun theory crafting it. I'm sure you all will.
Oh, I know what that is. Yeah, I'm not usually too abreast on what's coming in the future, but I do in fact.
That is one. Yeah.
All right,
We'll
gang.
that is.
Thanks, Wigbert. I don't think Elsie was here today, but thanks
No,
to Elsie as well. Just for normal goodness.
Yep. Thank you for everyone for coming. Thanks as always, Diff and Yank, for running this, and I probably see you guys in a month again, ish, for the next one.
All right, take care.
Always a pleasure.
Take care.